Life has a peculiar way of teaching us its lessons. The tighter we try to grip every small detail, the results, the timing, how people react to us, the more frustrated and drained we become. We map out our lives down to the smallest step, believing that if we just push a little harder and never let go, everything will eventually click into place. But what if I told you the opposite holds true? That the very moment you stop forcing, stop clinging, and start trusting, everything begins to flow with ease. This isn't about giving up. It's about realizing where your true power actually lies. The Stoics mastered this way of thinking centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of accepting what comes to pass naturally and not wasting your energy fighting against reality. He understood that struggling against things beyond our control only creates more suffering. The real battle is always internal. It's about training your mind to focus on what you can actually shape and learning to release the rest. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. This mindset shift can transform how you approach success, your relationships, and even your own sense of inner peace. Because if you constantly feel stressed, like no matter what you do, things never seem to go your way, there's a reason for that. You might be holding on too tightly to things that were never meant to be controlled in the first place. This video isn't just another self-help talk. It's about something deeper. It's about how to live with genuine confidence, to move through life with a sense of calm and certainty, instead of anxiety and frustration. And trust me, if you watch until the end, you'll walk away with a completely different perspective on how to get what you want without desperately chasing after it. Before we dive in, I have one simple free favor to ask. If you appreciate what we're doing here, please hit the subscribe button. It takes less than a second, but it helps bring this content to more people who need it. Now let's begin. Number 1. Release your attachment to the outcome. We spend so much of our lives obsessing over end results, waiting for that job offer, hoping a relationship works out, worrying if our efforts will ever pay off. We tell ourselves that if we just work a little harder, push a little more, we can force things to go our way. But what happens? The more we cling to a specific result, the more anxious we become. The process stops feeling rewarding, and our happiness becomes entirely dependent on something we can't fully control, and that's exactly where we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught that we don't suffer because of what happens, but because of our attachment to what we want to happen. He said, don't demand that things happen as you wish. Rather wish that they happen as they do, and you will be at peace. In other words, instead of tying your happiness to a specific result, focus on the process. Focus on what you can control. Your actions, your discipline, your mindset. Then let go of the rest. Think about an artist painting a masterpiece. If they are obsessed with making every single stroke perfect, worried about how others will judge their work, they will never enter a state of creative flow. But when they let go of the final result and simply focus on the act of painting, something incredible happens. They become fully immersed in the moment. The work becomes effortless. And ironically, that's exactly when they create their best art. The same principle applies to everything in life: work, relationships, personal growth. When you stop fixating on exactly how things must turn out, you give yourself the freedom to actually enjoy the journey. This is especially true in relationships. Have you ever seen someone try way too hard to impress another person? Their energy feels needy, desperate, almost forced. And what happens? It pushes people away. But when someone is confident, comfortable with themselves, and not obsessed with a particular outcome, they naturally attract others. Why? Because they aren't controlled by fear. They trust that whatever is meant to happen will happen. That's the power of detachment. Now, let's talk about success. So many people believe that if they don't achieve a specific goal by a certain age, they have failed. They treat life like a rigid checklist. Graduate by this age, earn this much money, get married, reach this level of success. And when things don't go according to plan, they spiral into self-doubt. But here's the thing. Success is never a straight line. It's full of twists, setbacks, and unexpected opportunities. If you're too attached to one single outcome, you might miss an even better one that life is trying to bring your way. Take a moment and ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly? What goal, expectation, or result is causing me stress? Now imagine what would happen if you released that grip. Not giving up, but trusting that whatever happens, you will be okay. That is true detachment. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to go a certain way just to feel at peace. So how do you practice this in real life? First, remind yourself daily that results are beyond your control. All you can truly control is your effort, your discipline, and your mindset. Second, reframe your thinking. Instead of saying, I need this to happen, shift to, I trust that whatever happens will serve my growth. And finally, focus on the present moment. The more you immerse yourself in the now, the less power the future holds over you. Number 2, master your inner mindset. Life constantly throws challenges our way. Some days everything flows smoothly, and on other days, it feels like the whole world is working against you. The difference between people who crumble under pressure and those who thrive isn't luck, it's mindset. The way you think shapes how you experience life. And if you don't learn to master your mind will master you. You can't always control what happens around you. The economy, other people's actions, unexpected obstacles, but you can control how you respond. That's where your real power lies. When you shift from simply reacting to consciously responding, everything changes. Psychologist William James, often called the father of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." This is exactly what the Stoics taught. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to let every difficult moment define you. Instead, you can train yourself to reframe situations, to step back and see them from a new perspective. Here's an example. Imagine you are going through a tough time at work. You keep making mistakes. Your boss is constantly watching you, and you feel like you are failing. One way to approach this is to think, I'm terrible at this. I'll never get better. Maybe I'm just not good enough. That's a fixed mindset, and it traps you in self-doubt. But what if you change that thought? What if instead you said, I am learning. Every mistake is teaching me something valuable. The pressure I'm feeling right now is helping me grow. That's a growth mindset, and it allows you to turn struggles into opportunities. The Stoics believe that every challenge is a chance to practice virtue, patience, resilience, wisdom. Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. That means every struggle, every setback, every moment of frustration is actually training you to become stronger. Think of it like lifting weights. If you never push yourself, you never build muscle. The same is true for your mind. But let's be honest, mastering your mindset doesn't happen overnight. It takes daily practice. One simple way to start is to pay attention to your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are you training yourself to see opportunities, to reframe situations, to stay calm in the face of uncertainty? Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant is what will grow. If you plant seeds of fear and anxiety, that's what will take over. But if you plant seeds of strength, clarity, and resilience, those will grow instead. Another way to strengthen your mindset is to train yourself to stay in the present moment. So much of our stress comes from obsessing over the past or worrying about the future. But the only thing you can ever truly control is this moment, right now. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what can I do right now that will move me forward? That single question can snap you out of panic and bring you back to what truly matters. Number 3, trust in divine timing. Patience is one of the hardest things to practice, especially when you are working towards something important. You have put in the effort, done everything right, and yet nothing seems to be happening. It's frustrating, isn't it? The world tells us that success should come quickly, that if we aren't seeing instant results, we must be doing something wrong. But the truth is, life does not operate on our personal schedule. It moves according to its own rhythm, and trying to rush the process often leads only to disappointment. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Think about that for a moment. Anything truly valuable, wisdom, strength, real success, takes time to develop, just as you cannot force a tree to grow faster by pulling on its branches. You cannot force life to give you what you want before the time is right. There is an order to things, and when you learn to trust that timing, you free yourself from so much unnecessary stress. Imagine a young artist who dreams of making a name for themselves. They work tirelessly, pouring their heart into their craft, but they are not seeing the recognition they want. At this point, they have two choices. They can either become frustrated, lose faith, and give up, or they can trust that every single brushstroke, every piece of work is preparing them for something greater, even if they can't see it yet. Those who trust the process keep going, and eventually, they find themselves exactly where they are meant to be. We live in a culture of instant gratification. Fast food, fast information, fast success. We have been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it isn't worth waiting for. But some things simply must take time. Relationships, personal growth, mastering a skill, all of these require patience. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." This means that growth lives in the process, not just the final outcome. If you are always focused on when something will happen, you miss out on who you are becoming along the way. But here's the tricky part. How do you stay patient when you feel like nothing is happening? The Stoics would say, focus on what is in your control. You can't control the timing, but you can control your actions. You can keep showing up, keep putting in the work, keep growing as a person, and most importantly, you can trust that if something is truly meant for you, it will arrive. Not a single second too early or too late. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." Instead of resisting life's timing, learn to embrace it. If things aren't happening as fast as you want, maybe it's because you are still in the process of becoming the person who is ready to receive them. Number 4, act with purpose, not desperation. Have you ever noticed that when you desperately chase after something, it always seems to move further away? Whether it's a job, a relationship, or success itself. The more frantic and needy your energy, the more things seem to slip through your fingers. It's almost as if the universe senses desperation and responds by pulling back. But when you act with purpose and calm confidence, everything starts to align naturally. There is a powerful difference between chasing and attracting. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, before you act, be clear on why you are acting. Desperate action comes from fear. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. But purposeful action comes from a place of clarity and strength. When you know who you are and what you stand for, your actions become more deliberate and grounded. Let's take an example. Imagine two people searching for a job. The first person is desperate. They send out applications everywhere, applying for jobs they don't even want, panicking over every single rejection. Their energy is scattered, anxious, and uncertain. The second person, however, is focused. They know their strengths. They take time to craft meaningful applications and prepare without obsessing over immediate results. Who do you think is more likely to get hired? The one who is calm, confident, and strategic, not the one acting from fear. This applies to relationships as well. If you enter a relationship out of desperation, fearing loneliness, or seeking validation, it often leads to disappointment. But when you approach relationships with self-respect and confidence, you attract healthier, more fulfilling connections. People are naturally drawn to those who are secure in themselves, not those who are grasping for attention. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a state of living with purpose and fulfillment. He believed that true happiness comes not from chasing external things, but from aligning your actions with your virtues and values. This is exactly what the Stoics taught. Act with wisdom, integrity, and purpose, and let the outcomes take care of themselves. When you move with intention rather than panic, you start making better decisions. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your true goals. Think of a seasoned chess player versus a beginner. The beginner reacts impulsively, making moves out of fear and uncertainty. The expert, however, plays with patience, seeing the bigger picture, making deliberate choices. Life works the same way. If you are constantly reacting to fear, you will make choices that lead to more chaos. But if you take a step back, act with clarity, and trust the process, you move closer to the life you actually want. So, how do you shift from acting out of desperation to acting with purpose? First, get clear on your why. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want it, or because I'm afraid of not having it? Second, slow down. Desperation rushes. Purpose moves with patience. Instead of making decisions from a place of fear, give yourself time to reflect and choose wisely. And finally, trust yourself. You don't need to force things into place. When you act with confidence and alignment, opportunities will naturally come your way. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of our desperation comes from imagined fears. What if I don't succeed? What if I fail? But the truth is, you are stronger than you think. You don't need to scramble for what is meant for you. Act with purpose, move with confidence, and watch how life starts to align in your favor. Number 5, release the need for control. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to control everything? You plan, you push, you strategize, but somehow life still doesn't unfold the way you expected. It's frustrating, isn't it? You try to make people act a certain way, force circumstances into place, and predict every possible outcome, only to find yourself feeling more stressed and less in control than ever. The harder you grip, the more things slip through your fingers. But here is the paradox. The very moment you let go, life starts working in your favor. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Think about that. True freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from letting go of the need to control. The more energy you spend trying to manage things that aren't yours to manage, other people's opinions, the future, the past, the more you drain yourself. But when you shift your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, you reclaim your power. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever tried to change someone? Maybe you wanted a friend, partner, or family member to behave differently, to be more understanding, more supportive. But no matter how much you tried, they stayed the same. That's because people are not ours to control. We can communicate. We can set boundaries. We can choose who we allow into our lives. But we cannot force someone to change. When you release that need, you free yourself from frustration and allow relationships to unfold naturally. The same applies to success. So many people believe that if they just push harder, they will reach their goals faster. But there is a difference between effort and control. You should absolutely work toward your goals, but obsessing over every tiny detail, stressing about timing, and fearing failure only creates resistance. Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you fight against the natural flow of life, you create unnecessary struggle. But when you trust the process and focus on what is within your power, things unfold with much greater ease. Imagine you are preparing for an important job interview. You have done the research, practiced your answers, and you are ready. But instead of trusting your preparation, you start overthinking. What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I mess up? What if I don't get the job? Now your energy shifts from confidence to anxiety. You walk into the interview nervous, tense, and second-guessing yourself. That need for control is actually making you perform worse. But if you take a deep breath, remind yourself that you have done the work, and let go of the outcome. You walk in relaxed and present, and you are much more likely to succeed. So, how do you start letting go of control? First, recognize what is and isn't within your power. The Stoics believed in the dichotomy of control. There are things we can influence and things we cannot. Wasting energy on the uncontrollable only leads to frustration. Second, practice acceptance. Life will not always go according to your plan, but that doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes detours lead to better destinations. And finally, build trust. Not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if it's not what you originally expected. Number 6. Embody the energy of abundance. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract success, opportunities, and even happiness without effort? It's not that they have some secret advantage. It's their mindset. The way they think, the way they carry themselves, and the way they see the world creates a reality where abundance flows to them naturally. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they lack seem to struggle endlessly, no matter how hard they work. It's not about luck. It's about the energy you bring into your life. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance isn't about hoarding money, collecting achievements, or endlessly chasing more. It's about realizing that you already have everything you need to live a fulfilled life. When you stop operating from a mindset of scarcity, believing you never have enough, you make space for more to naturally come to you. Imagine two people walking into the same room. The first person is focused on everything they lack. They compare themselves to others, feel like they are falling behind, and believe that success is always out of reach. Their energy feels heavy, their words are filled with doubt, and they unknowingly push opportunities away. The second person walks in with the belief that they have enough knowledge, enough skills, enough opportunities ahead of them. They engage confidently, build connections naturally, and end up walking away with new possibilities. The only difference? One person was living in scarcity, the other in abundance. And this applies not just to money or success. It applies to relationships, happiness, and even time. If you believe there is never enough love, never enough time, never enough good people in the world, then your mind will constantly look for proof of that belief. But if you shift your focus, you will start seeing opportunities everywhere. You will recognize the kindness in others, the possibilities in every moment, and the blessings that already exist in your life. Psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes." If you constantly feel like you are missing something, your brain will focus on that lack. But if you train your mind to see abundance, if you practice gratitude, confidence, and trust in life, you will start shifting your entire reality. It's not magic. It's perception. What you focus on grows. Think about a musician who approaches their career with a scarcity mindset. They constantly worry that there aren't enough opportunities, that the industry is too competitive, that they will never make it. Every rejection feels like proof of their fears. Because of this, they play it safe, hesitate to take risks, and miss out on potential breakthroughs. Now imagine another musician who believes in abundance. They see every rejection as redirection, every challenge as an opportunity to improve. They take more risks, connect with more people, and eventually find success. Not because they were luckier, but because they embodied abundance instead of fear. So how do you start embodying abundance in your own life? First, to start with gratitude. Instead of focusing on what is missing, focus on what is already here. When you appreciate what you have, you attract more of it. Second, act as if you already have enough. Move through life with confidence, knowing that opportunities are everywhere. And finally, release attachment. Trust that what is meant for you will come, not through force, but through alignment with your actions and beliefs. Number 7, take aligned action, then let go. Have you ever caught yourself obsessing over a goal, pushing harder and harder only to feel like you are running in circles? You do everything right, follow every step, and yet the results don't show up as fast as you want them to. It's frustrating, isn't it? We have been taught that success is all about effort, about never stopping, never letting go. But here's what most people don't realize. There is a difference between aligned action and desperate action. And sometimes the real key to progress is knowing when to act and when to step back. The Stoics had a deep understanding of this. Seneca once said, "Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety." We live in a culture that glorifies the grind, the idea that if you just work hard enough, things have to go your way. But real success isn't about blind effort. It's about taking the right steps, staying open to opportunities, and then allowing life to unfold naturally. The problem with forcing things is that it creates resistance. It's like pulling on a knot. The harder you yank, the tighter it becomes. Imagine you are trying to fall asleep. You cannot force yourself to sleep, right? The more you try to sleep, the more restless you become. But the moment you relax, let go, and trust that sleep will come, it happens naturally. The same is true for success, relationships, and even personal growth. You have to take action, yes, but you also have to trust the process. Think of a farmer planting seeds. They prepare the soil, plant the seeds, water them, and make sure they get enough sunlight. But after that, they don't dig up the seeds every day, demanding that they grow faster. They trust that, in time, the crops will flourish. If they tried to rush the process, they would only damage what they planted. Life works the same way. You take action, you do your part, but then you have to trust that things will develop at their own pace. This applies to every aspect of life. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever met someone who tried too hard? Maybe they were overly eager, texting too much, always needing reassurance. Their energy feels heavy, almost desperate. But then there is the person who is calm and confident, who shows interest but also gives space. They naturally attract others because they aren't forcing anything. That's what happens when you take aligned action and then let go. You create space for things to flow instead of suffocating them. Or think about your career. Maybe you have been hustling, trying to force every opportunity, but nothing seems to be moving forward. Now, what if instead of panicking, you trusted that your work was enough? What if you focused on being excellent at what you do, building meaningful connections, and allowing the right doors to open when they are meant to? This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you stop trying to control every single outcome. You take smart, purposeful action and then trust that what is meant for you will come. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Do what you must and let what happens happen." This is the essence of aligned action. You focus on what is in your control, your effort, your discipline, your mindset, but you don't obsess over the results. Because the truth is, no matter how much you plan or how hard you push, there will always be things outside your control. And the more you resist that truth, the more stressed and frustrated you will become. So how can you actually practice this in your daily life? First, get clear on your goal and take the necessary steps. Prepare, train, learn. Do your part. Second, let go of the need to control exactly when and how the results show up. Accept that the timing is not always up to you. And third, trust in your own resilience. Even if things don't go exactly as you planned, you will adapt, you will grow, and you will find new opportunities along the way. In the end, life is not about controlling every outcome. It is about mastering yourself. The moment you shift your focus from chasing to aligning, from forcing to flowing, everything begins to fall into place. The Stoics knew this truth centuries ago, and now it is yours to apply. So take a deep breath, trust the process, and remember that real power comes from within. If this video resonated with you, there is another one on your screen, right? Now that will take you even deeper into Stoic wisdom. Click on it and continue learning. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss a new insight. Thank you for being part of Stoic Path Daily. I will see you in the next one.